This is Trial Transcripts Exposed by Crime in Court with Heather. Raw courtroom reads with my commentary. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Crime in Court with Heather. This is Trial Transcripts Exposed, and we are going to be continuing the direct testimony of Erik Menendez. We have, I think, just a couple more parts where he is on his direct, and then we're going to get to his cross. So, let's just dive right into it. We are continuing on from where we left off. They took a long argument. So, if you recall last time, they argued a whole bunch over some things that should or shouldn't come in about the license being, about him not having a license and things like that. So, it was kind of a little heated between the state and the defense and the judge, I would say, and I feel like the judge is making it a little bit harder on the defense. But anyways, so they took their argument, they took a break, and now we're back. And this is the end of December 13th, 1995. The court says the jury's back. You may continue your direct examination. Mr. Levin says, "Thank you, Your Honor." You know what? Hold on one second. I'm in a lot of pain. FYI. I don't know what I did, but I messed up my hip so bad. I bent down. This was like a couple weeks ago. All I did was bend down. It was like a simple bend. It was nothing like I didn't do anything. I didn't lift. I didn't strain. It was just a bend, and my hip popped. And this hip I've had surgery on. I've had surgery on my left hip twice. Once on my right hip, and this is the right hip. This is the more recent surgery that I had. It's been over a year though. So anyways, it just popped really loud, really painful when it happened, and almost knocked me to the ground. My hip went out from under me. Couldn't like hold it anymore under me. And yeah, it was painful. Well, ever since then, it's been bad. And it's like in the back of my leg, almost like the side and down. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Almost like my butt cheek, where my butt cheek and my hip meet back there. That's kind of like where I felt it, but it's like deep in the joint. So I kind of feel it back there. So it really sucks. Walking aggravates it. I took my dog on and she wanted to go for a 3 block walk, which is fine, but usually I come back hurting a lot, and that is what happened today. She hurt me. So hold on one second. I'm gonna get a heating pad after I said all that. Let me get a heating pad and readjust, and I'll be right back. Okay, I have readjusted. I got a little bit of heat on my back, hip, posterior area. And I feel a little bit better. Okay, so let's get started now. Sorry about that little tangent. We will just pretend that that didn't happen. Okay, so the jury's back. You may continue your direct examination, says the court. Mr. Levin says, "Thank you, Your Honor." Mr. Menendez, did you purchase any real estate with the insurance money that you received following your parents' death? There was a condo that my parents had begun to purchase that was finalized afterwards. I'm not sure what money was used for that, though. And where was that condo? In Princeton, New Jersey, near the Princeton campus. Were you going to live there? If I had gotten into Princeton University, I would have lived there. I would have stayed there, I believe. I learned right away after talking to the dean I was going to be delayed for a year, but I believe the condo was still finalized afterwards. Was that condominium purchased in your name? I think it was my brother's name. I didn't sign any documents, so I just don't know. Did you ever express your desire to buy that condominium for yourself? Well, I know that my parents had started it, and there was a concern that if the money was not fronted for the condominium, I think it was $100,000, that the deal would be lost. And so I don't know how the money, I completely forgot the question. The condominium was that, did anyone reside in that condo before your parents' death? No. Was someone going to reside in that condo? It's where my brother and I suppose I was going to live when we stayed in Princeton. Was there any plan to furnish the condo? Yes. And who had planned to furnish it? My mother was planning to come out and buy new furniture for Lyle and furnishing it in October. I mean, in August or September. You indicated that that camcorder had been actually purchased on Lyle's credit card. Objection calls for hearsay and speculation, says Mr. Khan. The court says sustained. Mr. Levin says, did you know how the camcorder had been purchased? Objection calls for hearsay and speculation. The court says perhaps you can establish a foundation. Mr. Levin says, you indicated before that you thought that the camcorder, you told your mother that the camcorder was purchased in a certain way. I thought it had been purchased on her visa, and she was angry about that. Later, it got cleared up that it wasn't. It actually was. Objection calls for hearsay and speculation. Mr. Levin says, he's already testified, Your Honor. The court says the answer is really non-responsive. Hmm. He says the answer is non-responsive. Why don't you go over it again? Mr. Levin says, did Lyle Menendez use your mother's credit or Visa card to purchase the camcorder? No. Objection calls for hearsay and speculation. The court says sustained. The answer is stricken. It's ridiculous. Mr. Levin says, you told your mother that you thought that Lyle used her Visa card, correct? Yes. Why did you tell her that? I don't know. I just thought that that's how it was purchased, or I said it was purchased on their credit card, and she assumed it was her credit card. I'm not sure. How did you interpret her anger upon you giving her that information? She was angry that that had been purchased on her credit card and that was pretty much what her anger was, that it was on her card. Okay. I want to go back for a moment to the computer with respect to the situation in New Jersey where cousin Eileen, they had talked to her about arranging for some computer person to do something. What was that you understood the computer person was going to do? Eileen was going to arrange for somebody who worked at IBM to meet me at the house in Beverly Hills to get into the files that Carlos Menendez and the rest of the relatives were talking about on the computer. These mystery documents that have nothing in them, and it says it's titled will, and they can't open them for whatever reason. And were you given instructions with respect to what should happen upon your return to to California and in the computer? I was to let them in the house to look at the computer. And when you returned to California, were you made aware that the computer person had been contacted to look at the computer in the Menendez house? A few days before I left to California, Carlos Menendez told me that plans had been switched and that his computer person was going to take care of me, and so I went out to meet them. And did you meet them? Yes. Who was it that you met? A couple by the name of the Haymans. Where did you meet them? At the Beverly Hills store. I don't remember where in Beverly Hills house, in the Beverly Hills house. How soon after your return to California from New Jersey did you meet the Haymans? I think it was that day. Might have been the next day after. Do you know approximately what day this would be, or September 1st, the 31st of October, I mean, August. August, what? He's all over the place. Were the Haymans allowed access into your house? Yes. And did you see them do something? I saw them working with the computer. Did they tell you the result of their work? Yes. And what did they tell you? They told me that the computer had been wiped and new information put back on it, but the files no longer existed. So if Jose Menendez did want, or he did create a new will, maybe he deleted it, perhaps, or maybe he changed his mind. I don't know. Maybe there was a glitch in the computer. I really don't know, but it's just very odd, right? That You can't get into these files. Okay, now I'm really hot, so I need to change and adjust. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, that's better. Okay, so what did they tell you? They told me they had the computer, that the computer had been wiped and new information put back on it, that the files no longer existed. Did you understand what that meant at the time? That the files no longer existed? Did you know what files the Haymans were talking about? Yes. What files were the Haymans talking about? 3 files called Menendez, List, and Will. Did you learn at some point in time that files had been erased from the computer? Yes. When did you learn that? I learned it when I got a hold of my brother several days later. Several days after the Haymans came? Right. And how did you know that there were files that were labeled Menendez, List, and Will? Carlos Menendez told me at the memorial service in New Jersey. So he didn't even know until Carlos told him. So the computer that was in his parents' bedroom or wherever they kept it, I think they kept it in their bedroom to keep the brothers from being able to use it. And I forgot what I was going to say. Anyways, sorry, let's continue. Did he tell you how it was that he knew that there were such files in the will? Himself, my Aunt Joan, were fiddling with the computer and had discovered them on the computer, and the relatives were pretty much talking about it or discussing whether or not anything could be valid in New Jersey. Was it your state of mind that someone had actually seen a file or a name of a file? A name of a file. To your knowledge, did anyone ever discover a file? Turned out well, at least from what the you can answer the question yes or no, actually, says the court. The witness says, I think the answer at that time in 1989. Yes. Did anyone? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. What was the question again? To your knowledge, did anyone ever discover a file? He says, yes, I did. Did anyone indicate to you that they had actually seen a file, or was it the name of a file? The name of a file. Did Mr. Heyman indicate that he even found those names? No, he said that he did not. So was it your state of mind that the files had been erased? Yes, or wiped. And do you know or do you know how it was that they came to be erased? Yes, or deleted? Right. What was it that you knew with respect to the deletion of those names? Objection, irrelevant, and calls for hearsay, says Mr. Khan. The court says, are you asking him now, what does he know? What did he know at some earlier time? What is it that you're asking? Mr. Levin says then. The court says on September the 1st or August the 31st or what? I'll try to clear it up, says Mr. Levin. Following the incident with the Haymans, did you have a conversation with your brother? Yes. And before you had a conversation with your brother, did you have any information that your brother had done something to the computer? Objection calls for hearsay and irrelevant. What is your offer of proof? Says the court. It only goes to explaining the situation and explaining Mr. Menendez's state of mind and knowledge of this particular subject. The court says, you mean after the Haymans had been there? Yes. Sustained. Was there a time when someone handed you a note? Objection. Vague. Well, at some point, we'll clarify it, but one point at a time here, says the court. Okay, do you understand the question? The witness says yes. Mr. Levin says, and where did someone hand you a note? A security guard handed me a note in the Beverly Hills house. When? The day that I arrived home from New Jersey. And did you read that note? Yes. Could you tell me if it was Lyle Menendez's handwriting? It was not Lyle's handwriting. Did you at some point in time call Lyle Menendez? Yes. And did you have a discussion with him concerning the computer? Well, I tried to call him as soon as I got the note before. Tried to reach him several times before I actually spoke with him. Was the call made in relationship to the information on the note? Yes. What did the note say? Objection, irrelevant, sustained. And hearsay, says Mr. Khan. Ms. Abramson says, "Can I have a moment, Your Honor?" They confer, Mr. Levin and Ms. Abramson. Mr. Levin says, "Did you know where your brother was when you were in California and had returned from New Jersey?" Mr. Khan says, "Objection, irrelevant." The court says, "Overruled." The witness says, "I had thought that he was in New Jersey." Was he in New Jersey? Objection, lack of foundation. Sustained. Why did you think your brother was in New Jersey? I had spoke to him a few days earlier when he was in New Jersey. A few days earlier from what point? From the return to California? Right. And he was in New Jersey at that time? Yes. When you left for California, did your brother come with you? No. So you felt that he was still in New Jersey? Right. When you got to California and you saw the Haymans, had you seen your brother in California? No. But I got word that he had been in California. And how did you get that word? Objection calls for hearsay. Sustained. Did you later learn that your brother had returned to California? Objection calls for hearsay. Court says, perhaps you can lay a foundation by something that wouldn't be hearsay. Mr. Levin says, following the incident with the Haymans, did you try to find out where your brother was? Yes. Where did you first call to find your brother? Following the Haymans' arrival? Yes. Well, I first called before they arrived. I continued to call my Aunt Terry and to New Jersey to try to find them. I'm sorry, when you came back to California after you received this note, did you try finding your brother? Yes. And where did you call? I called my Aunt Terry and was perplexed over what was going on and said I received word that Lyle was in California. Where was he? What? Where was he? Okay, so did the note have something to do with your state of mind with respect to the computer? Mr. Khan says objection, irrelevant. The court says it's still hearsay. Objection sustained. That was the initial objection. Mr. Levin says, did you ever talk to Lyle Menendez in New Jersey? Yes. And what did you talk about? Objection, irrelevant, sustained. Did you discuss the computer with Lyle Menendez? Objection calls for hearsay and irrelevant, sustained. Was this discussion with Lyle Menendez, did it take place before the Haymans came to your house? No. And did it take place after, or what period of time elapsed after the Haymans left did you have this conversation with Lyle Menendez? A day or two. Where did you speak to Lyle Menendez? Where was he? I believe he was at my Aunt Terry's. Now, you heard, I believe, it was Mr. Whitkin who testified in this trial? I saw Mr. Whitkin testify. And you heard his testimony? Yes. Did you arrange for Mr. Whitkin to come to your house? No. Did you know that Mr. Whitkin had been to your house? Objection, irrelevant. The court says, well, how do we know that? Mr. Levin says, well, first, I want to establish if he knew that. The court says, well, perhaps. Mr. Levin says, if the prosecution's willing to concede that he didn't, that's fine. The court says again, did he see them? Did he see him? How would he know? Mr. Levin says, exactly. The court says, why don't you ask him? Mr. Levin says, did you ever see Mr. Whitkin at your house? No. So Mr. Whitkin was one of the computer guys that came and tried to find that computer or find those files in the computer. Did you ever talk on the phone to anyone named Mr. Whitkin? No. Did you ever see any notes at your house that a computer person named Mr. Whitkin had been to your house? No. Did Mr. Heyman say anything to you that caused you to believe that a computer person had been there before? I was highly suspecting it or knew it at that time. I don't remember. And what was that suspicion based on? Objection, irrelevant, calls for hearsay. Court says, well, on that issue, it would call for hearsay. Objection sustained. Mr. Levin says, when was the first time you talked to Lyle Menendez after the Haymans left your house? A few days after they had left. And did you talk to Lyle Menendez about the computer? Yes. Did Lyle Menendez have knowledge of Mr. Whitkin? Objection calls for hearsay. Sustained. This is ridiculous, all these sustains, because, like, a lot of times, if the prosecution doesn't object, it's no big deal. And a lot of times, you see people get away with hearsay questions all the time, or things that you're like, how did they get that in? It's because the other side doesn't object. And the judge can't just be like, oh, hold on. That's not right. We need to object to that. The judge has no say in who objects and when. The judge is supposed to be the person who calls the balls and strikes on the people who object. So it's, I don't know, kind of crazy that they just keep objecting to everything, the prosecution. Because if they would just stop, then it would like flow a lot better. I don't know. But a lot of times this is a strategy with attorneys, it could be prosecutors or defense, where they object so much during someone, if they're making, like, if they're getting somewhere, if they've got some momentum going in their in their examination of the witness, the other side might object a lot to things, like very little things, just to try to like break up their flow. So that's another reason why they could be doing that. I'm not saying that they're doing it here, but it's a possibility. So Ms. Abramson says, can I have a moment, Your Honor? And Abramson and Levin confer. Mr. Levin says, did you know before you came to California that Mr. Whitkin was going to arrive? No. Did you know of the existence of Mr. Whitkin? No. And did you know if your brother Lyle Menendez was coming to California before you arrived? Did you know when he was coming to California? No. Did you have any plans when you were in New Jersey as to what you were going to do after the memorial service? After the memorial service in New Jersey? Yes. I knew that at some point I was going to go back and meet the computer person at the house, but other than that, I had no plans. Did you have any idea where you would be living or where you would be staying following the memorial service in New Jersey? No. Did you have any plans to live in the Beverly Hills location? I didn't want to live in the Beverly Hills house. Had you purchased any businesses with the money from the insurance that the proceeds of your parents' death? No. Did you hire a tennis coach? Yes. Who was that? Mark Heffernan. And why did you hire a tennis coach? I decided eventually that to play tennis, it was the one thing that I knew how to do, and so I decided to hire Mark as my coach to train me. Did you tell Detective Zeller that that was your plan on September the 17th, that you were thinking about that? Yes, I did. And what was your plan or that idea, your content or your intent concerning your tennis career? Did you have one? At what point? At that point, when you were hired by Mark, or when you hired Mark Heffernan. I wanted to train to go on the professional circuit. Do you recall when it was that you hired Mark Heffernan? Training started the week of November of 1989? Yes. And did you establish some kind of training schedule with Mark Heffernan? At first, it was 8 in the morning till 5 p.m., and yes. From 8 in the morning until 5 in the evening, what was it that you would do? I would train on the tennis court. I would hit with my brother, who was also in training at that point. I would exercise, Nautilus workouts, swimming. We would eat lunch. We'd monitor my food. Every hour was something different. He was devising different ways to train. There's no way for me to live. I ain't doing all that, but good for people who do. And what was your feelings at the time? About what? About your future? About your tennis career? About your life? It was very uncertain. It was very lost. I told Mark that I couldn't get into school. I wasn't sure that I mentally was able to go to school at that point. I told him I would train with him for a year until the fall semester or the next school year, and then I might go back to school. I was very uncertain. I wasn't sure what to do with myself, and so tennis was the best thing that I could come up with. At this time, Mr. Menendez, it's a couple, 3 months after the death of your parents. How did you feel about that? I felt horrible. By that time, it was 2 months later. It was very a deep depression and extreme guilt, and I wasn't sure how I was going to go on. Did you want to tell somebody that you had to take your parents' lives? Yes. Did the hours change that you had established with Mark Heffernan from 8 to 5? Yes. And what did it change to? 8 in the morning till 7 p.m. at night. So you added 2 hours, right? Yeah. Why did you change it from 5 to 7 p.m.? At 5, when I had been getting off, I was left alone at night and it was very lonely period and I had too much time on my hands and I didn't want to be alone for such a long period of time. I wanted something in so I wouldn't have to think about things. I wanted more of a training school so that I would be busy and not have to be alone. Did you have that's I mean that is heartbreaking because I mean yes, he did something horrible, but it's still his parent. He still loved him. And no matter what we do, and no matter what age we are, we still want our parents' approval, right? So to live in this horrible world where Jose was just abusive and terrible to him all the time, and he still is guilty, or he still feels guilt, even though I'm not gonna say Jose deserved it, but people that do those kinds of things to children, I believe don't belong on this earth. We're better off without them. So to be honest, and I'm very empathetic to most people, most things in this world, but that I draw a hard line. Sorry. That and the any um less abled group like children, the elderly, animals, anyone who abuses those people are just scum in my opinion and shouldn't even waste space on this earth. But here we are. Let's go on. For I had regular contact with my brother throughout, either on my phone or face to face. Did you have regular contact with your brother? I had regular contact either on the phone or face to face. Where was Lyle Menendez in November of '89? He was also living at the Marina City Club training with us. Is this where you lived, at the Marina City Club? Yes. Who did you live with? I had a roommate named Noel Nedley. Who's Noel Nedley? He's a friend of mine whose mother also lived in the area at the complex and a guy I used to know in high school. What was the manner of your residence? Did you own? Did you lease? I rented. Month to month? It was a 6-month lease. And the unit that you resided in, that was right next door to Noel Nedley's mother. No, she lived in the complex. Was that a factor that you took into consideration when you chose to stay at the Marina City Club? Yes. Why? She was a wonderful mother. Oh, oh. Could you imagine being little kids and having such a horrible mother who says the worst things to you, like that she wishes you were never born and you're the one and only thing that has ruined her entire life, pretty much. And Erik has to sit there and watch other moms be good moms to their sons. That breaks my heart. I know they're like 17, 18 at this time when they're living together, but I'm just talking period, all of it. Like anytime he has a friend, which they didn't have many because Jose didn't let them, but anytime you would have a friend or engage or be out in public and see any kind of loving parent with their children, and you're like, what did I do wrong that I don't have that? Why don't my parents love me like those parents love that little boy? That's got to be so, so awful. I can't even imagine it. His first line is, so he asks, why did you want to live there? She says she was a wonderful mother. Something that I think both of them would have liked to have. Someone who would have protected them from the evils that their father did, and someone who wouldn't irrationally freak out and have temper tantrums in the house when she was having a meltdown. Let's go on. He says, she was a wonderful mother. I really liked her a lot. She would cook us dinners. Hmm. It was nice being over at that place, and there wasn't many people in my life at the time, and she was one of those that I enjoyed being with. How long did you live at the Marina City Club? Until I was arrested. So in March of 1990? Yes. So the crimes happened August 20th, 1989, and he gets arrested early March. I think the anniversary just took place. I can't remember when it was. Uh, he says yes. And when did you first take up residence at the Marina City Club? In either late October or early November of 89. They had tennis courts there? Yes. Was that another reason why you stayed there? Yes. How much was your rent? We shared rent. The total was 2,500 a month, and we paid 700. He paid 700. Oh, so he paid 700 and then he got the balance? You paid the balance? Yes. How about food? Who paid for food? I Did you each pay for your own food? I guess, yes. Were you supporting Noel Nedley while you lived in this? In a way, yeah. And in what way? He would go to the grocery store with me and I would just buy everything. How would you pay for these items? Either cash or by credit card. The credit card that Aunt Marta gave you? Yes. Did you know the balance of the account which Aunt Marta held in your name? No. Was there a time when you made a loan to your brother Lyle Menendez? Yes. When did that occur? Right before we began renting. What kind of loan did you make to him? Before we rented, we weren't sure if we should buy, and we were looking at different places, maybe to buy versus rent. And on the top floor, there was a place that he was thinking of buying, and he put down a down payment for further consideration. When you say you put down a down payment, how much was it? $2,000. Was that money you loaned to Lyle? Right. That was for Lyle Menendez to purchase that unit. If he eventually decided, yeah, he would pay me back. This is how much money doesn't matter to them because they grew up with it and it's just like, oh, my roommate needs groceries, I'll just buy them. We both need groceries, I'll just buy them all. Or, with Lyle, just purchase a condo. I'll just give you some money. You can pay me back whenever. To them, $2,000 here, $2,000 there is not a lot of money because it really wasn't to them. And remember, this is back in 1989, 90 era. So inflation, I gotta look. I gotta look. I have to know now. Okay, guys, I'm glad I did because $2,000. Listen, this is how bad our inflation is, FYI. $2,000 in 1989 is the equivalent to $5,000, $5,246 today, as of today. Isn't that crazy? 2 grand back in '89 is now worth $5,200. Anyways, that blows my mind that our money is like that. Anyways, okay. 5 grand here, 5 grand there. Nobody cares. It's just whatever in this family, anyways. When did you leave for the tournament in Israel? February 20th or 22nd? Between the time that you lived in the Marina City Club and which you had said was around November to February or March? Yes. Was Lyle Menendez in California continuously during this period of time? Between November and February? Yes. He was renting an apartment right next door to mine throughout, but he stopped playing tennis and decided to move back to Princeton, New Jersey in late December or early January. By this time, had all your relatives returned back east? No. My grandfather was living with me sometimes and living at the Beverly Hills house. Living with you where? At the Marina City Club. You heard the testimony of Mark Slotkin? Yes. I'm sorry, that you borrowed some money from him? Right. Was there a trip that you took where Mark Slotkin was also there? Yes. And when did that trip take place? It was after I had come back from Christmas in New Jersey with the relatives. Must have been the 28th or 29th of December. Where did you go? I went up to Lake Tahoe with my roommate, Bob Bavarian, and another friend. I can't remember at this time. Mark was up there with his girlfriend and another couple. Was this prearranged that Mark would be up there? Did you know that he was going to be there? I was over at his house on like December 20th, and I told him that I was going up there with my friends, and he said, "Oh, I'm going up there too." So we arranged to meet up there at the same time. Did you borrow some money from Mark Slotkin while you were at the lake house or Lake Tahoe? No. Yes, sorry. Did you borrow money from Mark Slotkin while you were at Lake Tahoe? Yes. Was that related to gambling? Yes. How would you describe Erik Menendez as a gambler? I had never gambled before. I lost. And you had just turned, I believe, 19 years old? Yes. How much money did you borrow from Mark Slotkin? I no longer remember. Do you have an idea as to how much it was? Was it more than 5,000? Less than 5? It was less than 5,000. It makes no sense. Somewhere around there. Did you pay him back? Yes. How did you pay him back? I thought I had written him a check. I don't remember how. Were you ever attempting to keep a secret that you had lost money at a Lake Tahoe? No. I wanted to ask some questions now concerning the tape recording that the prosecution played in court that's been identified as the December 11th, 1989 tape regarding Dr. Oziel. Ms. Abramson says, "Excuse me, Your Honor." Abramson and Levin talk. Levin says, "Do you recall the conversation playing a tape recorded conversation bearing any voices that you now recognize?" Yes. And whose voices did you hear on that tape? The brothers, myself, Dr. Oziel. And from the content of that conversation, could you tell the date that the conversation took place? From the words that were spoken, or from my memory of when it took place? From the memory of when it took place. Yes. And when did that conversation take place? December 11th, 1989. Now, on that tape, you're heard to be discussing some things that you did not testify to in this trial, correct? Yes. And you heard things that Lyle Menendez said in that conversation to which you have not testified in trial, correct? Right. Had you admitted to Dr. Oziel before December 11th, 1989 that you had killed your parents? Yes. When did you admit to Dr. Oziel that you had killed your parents? October 31st. October 31st, 1989? Yes. Who was your who was present when you admitted to Dr. Oziel why you had killed your parents? Who or when? I'm sorry, who? Myself and Dr. Oziel. Did you tell Dr. Oziel on October 31st why you had killed your parents? No. Now, was there a reason why you didn't tell Dr. Oziel on October 31st why you killed your parents? Yes. Why? I hadn't been expecting to tell him on that day. It came out because of what was happening in the conversation. I wasn't expecting to tell him, I wasn't expecting to go into detail. I didn't want to talk about my sex between my father and I, and by that time, he had already called my brother to come over to the session, and I felt as though I had let my brother and his trust in me in in even talking to Oziel. Did you call Dr. Oziel for the appointment that took place on October 31st, 1989? Yes. Did you call him for a particular reason? Yes. What was the reason you called Dr. Oziel to see him? My cousin Henry told me that I had better see Dr. Oziel. Had you had you had a conversation with cousin Henry that preceded this phone conversation to Dr. Oziel? Yes. What was the nature of that conversation? Just, or strike that. When did this conversation take place? When cousin Henry and yourself, with cousin Henry and yourself? Several days. Oh, hold on. Sorry about that. I had a phone call that I had to take. It was doctor's office thing I was dealing with. So, okay, it's all cleared up now, I guess. So now I don't remember where I left off. So let me back up just a minute here. What was the nature of that conversation? Just, or strike that. When did this conversation take place with cousin Henry and yourself? Several days before I called Dr. Oziel, and before you had the conversation with Dr. Oziel and this conversation with cousin Henry, had you seen? Oh, sorry. That looked like a full paragraph to me. I don't know why. I'm out of it today. Something's not right. Sorry. Um, so the answer was several days before I called Dr. Oziel. He had this conversation with cousin Henry. And before you had this conversation with Dr. Oziel and this conversation with cousin Henry, had you seen a doctor? A medical doctor? Yes. When did you see a medical doctor? On one of my trips back to New Jersey in early September, I believe it was September 12th. Were you experiencing some difficulty with respect to your physical condition that required you to see or seek out the services of a doctor? I was having extreme ulcer-like pains. That's probably his anxiety and stuff like manifesting is some kind of. And he might have had those before because he probably was always anxious living in that house. So it's probably just worse now if he did have it before because of him stressing and feeling guilty. How did you describe your emotional condition in September of 1989? Very distraught, extremely depressed. What doctor did you see? My old doctor, who I had seen before, was not there, so I had an associate of his. Did you receive any kind of special treatment? Yeah, pills that I was supposed to take to calm the pain, the ulcer. Were you having trouble sleeping? Yes. Were you concerned by any particular thought? Yes. What was that thought? Seeing my parents dead, the thought that I had killed them. The whole night I wasn't able to sleep. I kept waking up out of nightmares, and it was giving me a tremendous pain in my stomach. Did you talk to Lyle Menendez about your problems? I tried to. When did you try to? Several times in September and October. Could you talk to Lyle Menendez about your problems? I would bring it up to him, and he would generally, we'd be at my parents' grave, and it was because of how he was feeling and things that he was telling me made it very difficult. What was it that you wanted to talk to Lyle about? Just what was happening, the fact that My parents had died, the fact that we killed them. I didn't discuss with my brother afterwards what did this mean? What did this mean about us as people? Why it had come down to this and what we were doing or what we were going to do about it in terms of the rest of our life. So this poor kid was so lost at this moment in time. He was a kid. He's 19, but it's a kid to me. My family had just been destroyed, and I needed to hear that I wasn't a bad person, and I needed to have some foundation in my life, something to work from, and I was very lost. And so I would try to speak to Lyle about these things. What were you looking for? Comfort? Answers? Reasons? Did you feel or did Lyle offer you such comfort? He was consumed with his own pain. He kept talking about the reload, about running back into the room and not having control and shooting my mom after she stopped moving. And he kept talking about that, and this wasn't what I wanted to talk about. So Lyle had his own trauma from having to run back out, reload the gun, and shoot his mother. He kept going back to the images that he had and how he was having trouble dealing with it, and this only made me feel worse and worse. And I had several conversations, and each one came back to him shooting mom and how he could go back. And objection, I object at this point. Calls for hearsay, non responsive, motion to strike. The objection's a little late. The answer will stand. Move on to your next question. Mr. Levin says, did you, Erik Menendez, want to talk or want to admit that you had killed your parents? I didn't want to talk about the shooting. I just wanted to talk about who I was as a person at this point, and I needed to tell people. He needed reassurance that he wasn't this horrible monster that he thought he was. He was saving himself from the horrible monster. And it's hard to decide, or it's hard when you, especially when you're in that cycle of trauma and you're still being re-traumatized constantly over the trauma. So it's really hard to get out of that. Did things start to happen after your relatives started to arrive in California concerning your feeling about your parents? Yes. What kind of things occurred? Everyone would reminisce. Everyone would talk about what a successful businessman my father was and how much higher in the business world he was going to reach. And what a powerful and strong man he was. And I would talk to my Aunt Joan and my Aunt Marta about my mother and memories about her. Just brought a lot of pain. It made my parents more human to me, things that I didn't know about, and it made me tremendously miss them. Did you love your mother? Objection vague as to time. Sustained. When you heard these things from your relatives about your parents, did you love your mother? Yes. Did you love your father? Yes. Did you miss them? Extremely. Did you want to tell someone what you had done? Yes. How did you feel that you could tell someone, or did you feel that you could tell someone what you had done, the people that you knew? You mean my aunts, my grandmother? Yes. I I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it to them. I couldn't face them with that truth. I tried to with my cousin Peter one time when we were on the beach, and I just couldn't do it. When you say you couldn't face them with the truth, what truth was that? I couldn't let them down. I couldn't. Objection, motion to strike, non responsive. The court says, I believe he's responding to the question. Overruled. The witness says, I didn't want them to know that I had done this, that my brother had done this, especially my grandmother. And so I brought a great sense of isolation so I brought a great sense of isolation from them because I couldn't face them having this knowledge. So he isolated from them or kind of detached from them. Did you hate your father because he had molested you for most of your life? Sometimes. Did you hate your father? Strike that. Did you feel that there was any way that you could tell anyone why you killed your father without telling them about the molestation? That was the center of it. Did you kill your father because he had molested you? No. Did you consider telling your relatives? I I had discussions with my brother. If they found out who we could tell, but it never blossomed into me telling them until after we were arrested. Was Dr. Zeal at any memorial services? Yes. Remember, they paid him that day. Now, when you saw Dr. Oziel on the 31st, that's another one that this jury never got to hear from. And remember, his testimony was insane in the first trial. He was so hard to get through. His testimony, his cross-examination was so good, but it's so frustrating to hear because he lied. He's a liar. He sounds like a con artist to me. And anyways, objection asked and answered, overruled. No, I had no intention of doing that. Did I read the sentence or did I read the question? I don't remember. Did you plan or intend on admitting to him that you had killed your parents, Dr. Oziel? Objection asked and answered, overruled. No, I had no intention of doing that. So he didn't mean to tell Dr. Oziel, it just kind of blurted it out. When you went to see Dr. Oziel, what specific reason did you see him for? My cousin Henry was worried about me and told me I should see him, and I agreed. Thanks, Henry, for bringing Dr. Oziel into our lives. And the reason that you saw him, was this related to your emotional condition? That I just was having trouble living with myself. The fact that you were having trouble living with yourself, did it cause you to feel any, strike that, were you depressed? Yes. Did you have ideations to take your own life? Yes. Did you have any dream or visions of taking your own life? Yes. What kind of things were coming through your mind? Dreams of asking a friend of mine to kill me or a relative to kill me and them not wanting to do it, or them not doing it, and dreams of dying and being in this extreme place of not having the guilt and the regret overwhelm me each day. And it was just an extremely peaceful thought, and it made me yearn to end this pain. And I told my cousin Henry about these thoughts, and he was very worried and asked me to see Dr. Oziel. He, in fact, called Dr. Oziel. Hmm. Okay. October the 31st, 1989, Mr. Menendez, did you tell Dr. Jerome Oziel of these feelings that you just related to the jury? I tried to. What did you tell him? I told him how much I missed my parents, that I was lost, that I had lost a lot of weight, that I was having trouble living with the fact that I was spending their money, what to do with it, what to do with the money. I was just rambling on about what I thought my father would want in his life. What I put a lot of thought about what my father would want in my life and what I would do with my life, what my tentative plans were, and he wasn't understanding why I was no longer wanting to live. If someone else had killed my parents, why I would feel so extreme about it. Did Jerome Oziel, Dr. Oziel, know your mother and father? Yes. And to your knowledge, had he spoken to both your mother and your father before? He had had private conversations with them. Did Dr. Oziel begin to tell you things that he felt about your mother and your father? Yes. Did Dr. Oziel appear to be concerned about your mental condition? At first, I thought he was. And how did he communicate to you uh, that he was? I don't think he really said anything, but he was a psychiatrist, and so I just assumed that he was. Did he ask you a lot of questions about your feelings? Before I told him that I had done it, or after? Before. He was trying to get to the bottom of my feelings in terms of why would I feel that I no longer wanted to live or couldn't live with myself if someone else had killed my parents. He wasn't getting it. There was no bridge, and it was at that point that I decided to bridge the gap. So you had told Dr. Oziel your feelings, your emotional condition before you told him that you had killed your parents. Yes. And how did the discussion come up that you killed your parents? You just blurted it out? No. How did it arise? I asked if I could go for a walk, and he said sure. And we went outside his room, so to speak, and went down to the sidewalk. And I was talking to him as we went up the sidewalk. I was heading towards a church that I had gone to before, which was above Santa Monica. And we were just walking, and I was telling him about my father and how I wanted to write a book about my father. And I was telling him about a lot of things about my brother and how I wasn't able to communicate with Lyle because of the things that his own difficulties in dealing with it. And eventually, as we ended the walk, it was like half hour or an hour walk. I said, Dr. Oziel, we did it. And what was Dr. Oziel's reaction and response? He said that he had thought that I had done it. He thought that I was going to tell him that evening, and that I hadn't really had a choice, that I was so overburdened by the fact that I was eventually going to tell him. Overburdened by what? The pain and the guilt. Did Lyle Menendez know that you had gone to see Dr. or Jerome? Yeah, Dr. Jerome Oziel. I don't know why I can't say that. No. Did Lyle Menendez know that you were going to tell Dr. Oziel that you had killed your parents? No. What happened after Dr. Oziel stated to you that he thought that you were going to tell him what you had said? What was the next thing that you remember him saying? At that point, I started to explain to him what it was that I couldn't live with, why I couldn't live with this, why I was having so much problems with my brother in talking about these issues for his own issues, and he wanted to know about facts about what had happened. When you say he wanted to know facts, what kind of questions was he asking? He told me that he would deal with my letter to take his own life later, that he wanted to know what had happened in terms of, and I told him what we had run into in the room and that the shootings happened and what we did afterwards in terms of trying to to create an alibi. And I just gave him various details. He kept asking more and more. So, in essence, you told Dr. Oziel the things you had done, the facts you had done when you entered the room that you testified here to this jury? Yes. And you told Dr. Oziel the truth about what you did the following, uh, about what you did the following killing of your parents with respect to the shotguns and the trip to the movies? I told them we left them off at Mulholland, that we tried to go to a movie theater. We tried to get a hold of Perry in Santa Monica, and we had come back to the house and called the police. Now, who is directing the conversation? Was it just talking about these things, or was it Dr. Oziel asking you specific questions that brought forth this information? By this time, we were back in his office, and I was pretty hysterical in terms of crying and uh, whatever, to an extreme. So I was just blurting out things and would ask questions. The kind of questions that he was asking were these questions that were directed towards the information you were giving him. He asked me where we got the guns. I guess the answer is yes. In other words, you were answering the conditions that he was asking? Yes. Did he know at the time? I cannot read right now. My brain is like fried. So tired. I don't know why. Give me a minute to get up and stretch and move around. Sorry, guys. I'm struggling through this one. I'm so fatigued today. For some reason, like when I get tired and I get fatigued, it just like hits me, it washes over me, and then my brain is just mush. We really don't have that much left, so we're gonna get through it. I made myself some coffee, so let's do it. Did he know at the time, or did he now, at this time, seem to be concerned with your emotional condition? No. Did you try to tell him how you were feeling? That's what I wanted to talk about, how I was going to live with the fact that I had done this. And I primarily wanted to hear him tell me that I was not a bad person and that I could live. That I could live. What? Like he wanted to he wanted to die. At this point, I believe he asked if Lyle knew if I was there. He asked you if Lyle Menendez knew you were there? Yes. How did he communicate that to you? He asked me if Lyle knew that I was telling him these things to him. What did you tell him? I told him that my brother did not know. What did he respond? That he asked me what I was going to tell my brother, the fact that I had confessed to Dr. Oziel that I had done this and that I was responsible for my parents' death, and I told him that I didn't know what I was going to tell Lyle, that I hadn't even planned on even telling him, and I hadn't thought about it. Maybe I shouldn't tell Lyle, maybe I should. He thought definitely I should tell Lyle that, in fact, he wanted to call Lyle on the telephone right away, right then. Yes, he did. Did Dr. Oziel express to you concern that he had confessed to him and Lyle Menendez didn't know that you had done so? Yeah, he was focused on that in that moment. So he was focused on the fact that Lyle didn't know, but Erik was telling him. Okay. Now my dog needs the blanket. I swear to God, there's been so many interruptions in this thing. This is why I don't do lives, because I have so many interruptions. And I really would love to get more viewership, more views on my channel, get more subs, get more views, and do lives. And in order to get a lot of views and whatnot, lives are really the way to go. But I cannot get myself to do lives. Let me know in the comments if you would be interested in me going live for a transcript read. Maybe Delphi, maybe Menendez. I don't know. One or the other. Mm. By the way, while I'm on a break, um, I am going to announce that. So I've been doing a lot of looking at the analytics and things of my channel, and you guys are really interested in the Delphi channel or the Delphi trial right now. So I'm going to put 2 Delphi trial transcripts throughout the week. We're going to do Tuesdays and Thursdays and see how that goes for now. So just something I'm trying out. All right, because I hadn't given him. Okay, let me back up. Do you know why it was that she hadn't gotten a hold, why she wanted to get a hold of Lyle Menendez? Because I hadn't given him a good thought of how I was going to tell Lyle and give Lyle this knowledge. And so he felt Lyle should know right away. And he wanted to bring Lyle, he wanted to call Lyle on the phone and eventually asked him to come over that night. Did Dr. Oziel ever suggest to you that you should turn yourself into the police? No. But Mr. or Dr. Oziel has to be the little Mr. Goody Two Shoe Pants who wants to be the star prosecution witness for the state in the first trial. He was absolutely their star witness because, whoops, sorry, due to him uh, being like the only one that had talked to them and got the confession from Erik. But obviously, he was too problematic to put on a second time, especially what they did with Judalon Smith in the first trial and basically tore Oziel apart. So they didn't want to go with him again. So obviously, they went with a different angle. The state did. All right. Did Dr. Oziel ever suggest to you that you should turn yourself in? No. Did he ever say anything about the location where the shotguns were? Yes. What did he say? He said that we should take them and bury them in the desert. What kind of things was Dr. Oziel talking about your mother and your father up to this point, or before the point where, yes, he talked in general about my mother's depression and my father being this very strong man. What did Dr. Oziel say specifically about your father? Before this point, I was talking to Dr. Oziel about how great my father was and how I wanted to write a book about him. And he was telling me about how controlling my father was, and that's probably why he was so successful because he was also brilliant. What? So in this whole exchanges, he's telling him, you're probably just scared of your father or whatever, or angry at him because he was controlling you. But also, I think your father was a brilliant, successful businessman. Huh? Maybe he just got into the right circle of the right um PDF files, as we are now calling them, because you get uh censored if you don't. So the PDF files that they're covering up. Maybe he got into just the right circle of PDF files that are high up and have some power. I think that's how Jose got to where he got. Honestly, I do. What about your mother? He told me that she was a pitiful person, that she had a miserable life. And I don't mean to laugh, but that's mean. That she was a pitiful person and had a miserable life, and that she didn't want to live anymore. How does Dr. Oziel know this? Did you tell Dr. Oziel that your mother was a pitiful person? No. Did you tell Dr. Oziel that your mother didn't want to live anymore? No. But I liked hearing that. He liked hearing that his mom didn't want to live anyways because of how miserable she was. Your Honor, this would be a good place for a break unless the court wants me to continue. The court says no, that's fine. We'll resume then tomorrow at 8:30. Don't discuss the matter with anyone and don't form any final opinions. Don't permit yourselves to be exposed to anything about this case outside of the courtroom, and we'll resume tomorrow at 8:30. That is where we end it. So, Dr. Oziel comes in a little bit. Interesting. Interesting. Even though the state refused to call him the first time. But we're still talking about Dr. Oziel and the confessions and all the stuff. So it's just an interesting way to do it, I guess. I don't know. If it were, if the court of law was fair, then we wouldn't be doing this trial a second time, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that. Other than it is what it is. All right. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Would you want me to go live occasionally? Would you show up for that? Let me know, and I will see you guys next week for a brand new Trial Transcripts Exposed, the Menendez Brother Trial 2. See you then. Bye, guys. That's the end of this Trial Transcripts Exposed. Thanks for following along with me. Like if you want more, subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments below. See you next time.